Hello and good evening, everyone. Good evening to those of you who are joining us from the same time zone, and perhaps good morning for those of you who are joining us from other parts of the world, and then specifically from our beloved continent of Africa. My name is Emira Hasnawi. I am a PhD student in the Department of the World Arts and Cultural / Dance. I am very pleased today and privileged to be the moderator and the host of today's event, also hosted by the Department of World Arts and Culture. To start with, I really want to personally acknowledge the Tongva people, the traditional caretaker of the Tongva land here in Los Angeles. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our artist who will be joining us later on for the Q&A. So please stay. We will be showing the piece today, his last work. And after we watch the piece, which will last about 25 minutes, just to let you know, we will be hosting a Q&A with him and other artists who he collaborated with to create this piece. So please stay tuned. Wilfried Sully is a choreographer, dancer, drummer, and taekwondo expert, originally from Burkina Faso in West Africa. He was trained in African traditional and contemporary dances since his youngest age, and in the acclamated company, Le Bourgeois du Burkina. In September 2000, he co-founded Compagnie Ta with two other choreographers and co-choreographed many dance pieces presented around the world, including one work that was selected as a finalist in the 5th Choreographic Encounters of Africa and Indian Ocean in Madagascar. The piece was then presented at the Great Barbican Center in London for a full week event. Compagnie Ta also collaborated with an association of visual artists on Genie de la Bastille in Paris. Willie himself has collaborated with international choreographers such as Robert Battle, Gerardo de Galdo from Mexico, Eric Mezino, and Gilles Chamber, France. In 2007, Willie moved to Los Angeles, where he has collaborated with companies and choreographers such as Baker and Tarbaga Dance Project, Maria Gillespie, Victoria Marx, Heidi Dockler Dance Theater Company, Viver Brazil Dance Company. Willie was an adjunct professor at UCLA World Arts and Cultural Dance Department from 2019 to 2018, when he decided to go back to school and earn his master's. He also has been a guest teacher and choreographer in many institutions such as Princeton University, Ohio State University, Denison College, Santa Monica College, Los Angeles Valley College, Shedwick School, Oakwood School, Harvard Westlake School, among many others, I believe, that I'm not going to list today. The piece that you're about to see today is called Unsung. Unsung is a choreographic response to marginalization and oppression lived by Black bodies under new colonialism in certain African countries and under the systemic racism faced by so many people in the United States of America. With no further ado, I will then let you watch the piece for 25 minutes, and then we'll be joined by Will and the other artists for the Q&A. We do have the Q&A feature, so if you please have any questions, you can write them there, and I will make sure to ask your questions as soon as we become ready after the piece. Enjoy the piece and take notes.
I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. A riot is the language of the unheard.
It's been the brutality of a mob, pure and simple. And let me assure you, I will use whatever force is necessary to restore order.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.
Ah, I don't even know where to start, Willie. First of all, welcome back to all of those who stayed with us to watch the piece. I hope you can see the chat is popping, Willie. I think you have access to see it. And welcome to those who are just joining us right now. And if you haven't seen it yet, Willie, I urge you to see it. Before I forget, I really want to give a shout out to our wonderful and phenomenal team who are working behind the screen to make sure everything runs smoothly. I want to give a shout out to Mark, Arsenio, and Ginger. Thank you so much for making sure everything goes smoothly. And we have Willie with us live from Burkina Faso, the man behind what you just watched. Welcome, Willie, and I think also Theo, the composer, is here with us as well. Willie, first of all, congratulations. Congratulations. Mes sincere félicitations. And Theo, I'll get to talk to you more while waiting for questions to pop out in the Q&A, and I'll pass them to you all. I think I already introduced you. Well, I think people were able to hear my introduction, but I think I haven't heard from Theo. I want to learn more about you, Theo, if you don't mind introducing yourself and like briefly, what do you want people who are watching to know about you?
And sure. Oh, sorry, Willie, go for it.
Yeah. It seems like hi everybody. Hi. It seems like we also have the poet slash performer that is actually here as an attendee. And maybe she can later introduce herself.
Absolutely, yes. Welcome. Theo?
Yes, sorry, I was waiting to be sure it was my turn this time. Sorry about that. Hi everyone. First of all, thank you, Willie, for this amazing collaboration. It was such a pleasure to work with you on that project. And so I'm a composer from Switzerland, and I'm studying here at Los Angeles at UCLA. And I met Willie last year during a fabulous class we had together that was a collaboration class between composers and choreographers. Mm-hmm. And I showed him my music and he wanted to collaborate with me, and that's why I'm here today. So really great stuff. Thank you so much.
Great, welcome Theo, and thank you so much. So before we get into the Q&A, I have a burning question, I think, to start us off with, Willie. I'm wondering, how did the idea emerge? And as a follow-up question, what influenced your decision? From what I understood is that I think you informed me that the entire dancers, the crew, they're all from Burkina Faso. They're all Burkinabe. So I'm wondering, first of all, how did the idea emerge and what influenced that decision? If you can speak to that. You're muted.
Yeah, typical Willie. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for being here. Before I answer that question, maybe I'm gonna ask Labrette Baker, who was the poet and the spoken word artist, to introduce herself before I answer that question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please go for it.
Yeah, Labrette, you want to say something?
Hi.
Hi, Labrette. Welcome. Thank
Hi.
you for joining.
Thank you for tuning me in at the last minute. My name is Labrette Baker, and I'm primarily a writer, but I'm also an interdisciplinary artist. Thank you, Willie, so much for the invitation to collaborate on your project. It's just been washing over me since I've returned home. So thank you so much. Hey, Theo.
Welcome, Labrette. Thank you so much.
So, how did that thing came into my mind? I would say that initially it came like Theo mentioned it. We met in the music and dance collaboration class, and after that we kind of connected, and we started talking to each other because we both we each speak French. And then we kind of shared the same artistic values. I'm a musician as well. And at one point, Theo has this project where he sent me like a 4 minutes long soundtrack, and we tried to collaborate on a dance for camera project together. And at that time, I was in my 211D course, which is like the last choreographic course in the department. And in that course, we are kind of required to work with over bodies, direct over bodies. And it was at the beginning of COVID. So I kind of had this desire of working with like dancers that I didn't know, like a direct. So I kind of went with finding couple dancers upon the recommendation from Olivier Tarpaga, who is a choreographer living in Philadelphia, and Francois Bouda, who is like an administrator in Burkina Faso. They kind of recommended 3 dancers, and I just started working with them. And the main thing was to kind of talk about the issues, the social issues that Black bodies were living around the world.
Great. To go off of that, I think a question that came in was, what experiences did you pull from when you're creating the piece? Like what other experiences?
I did not really pull from just one experience, because as a Black body living in this world, you are like you are facing like multiple oppressions from yeah, you always face oppression every single day. So my idea came from all these experiences that me, the dancers, and my collaborators have lived. So it's not only one
Experience,
thing.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And of another question coming from Carol. So asking about the process. Actually, I saw this in a different coming from different people, asking from the process. Please tell us something more about the process of this work and your collaborations, and would love to hear more about your story returning home to work with a group of young artists in your homeland.
The process wasn't easy because I kind of jumped both feet in the plate, like we say in Africa, trying to work with initially 3 dancers that I have never met. So they were just recommended to me, and I just decided to trust them. And we started kind of rehearsing on Zoom. We had like 2-3 rehearsals a week till I met them in November, when we started rehearsing around October last year, and I first met them at the end of November. And we kind of worked on like different ideas that I was suggesting, and a couple ideas that I got from my 211D class. And when I met them, we kind of created like a 9-minute long project, which was kind of longer than the music that the soundtrack that Theo gave me. And after that, it felt like I wouldn't say intuition, but it felt like the right thing to do was to extend this work and have it be like a capstone project. Because I was working on a different project, but this one kind of took my mind and took everything out of me. It was very interesting, very dear to me that I just switched gears. Whoever knows me will understand because I always change my mind at every last minute. Yeah, so I switched gears and just went with it. So.
Great. There is a question about the specific ending, and so coming from Mana, and the question is, can you speak to your decision to create the ending tableau? Some bodies were rising, other bodies on the floor, bodies in motion, a body dragged by another. What was the process of bringing all of that together in the ending piece?
Okay, but at the end, the main work for this piece was a shout out to all the Black women in the world, because even though I'm talking about the issues of Black bodies in the world, I kind of need to acknowledge that Black women are living a worse situation than Black men. And at the end of the piece, only the female bodies are standing up.
Mm.
And that was a way for me to recognize all the work that they are doing behind the curtains. So only the Black women, only the female bodies are standing. The female bodies are carrying that fight, leading the fight for us.
Thank you. It's so much to unpack again. And for my next question, I think Theo or Lebret can just jump in. And I'm really wondering about what was the most challenging given the circumstances, different locations, different, and also in terms of logistics. Like, if any of you could speak to that, what was the most challenging about bringing all of this together? In particular, Theo, I'm really interested in sound and in music and the composition of that felt like it's just made specifically for the piece, of course, but that felt like you've been working on this forever, and that's what it's supposed to look like and sound like.
Well, I was lucky enough that Willie came back to Los Angeles a couple of times, and so we met at my apartment, and I worked with him very closely. So as he said, the last part, the kind of pop song that is at the end, I made it before, and he used it for his composition, but then I expanded it for him for his needs in the composition. And for the beginning, that was kind of challenging to find what sound will match. So I wanted to use this very little piano motif that becomes so important at the end, like of kind of yes, a preparation of what is coming, and use my own voice very low with some effects on it to have kind of these energetic sounds that support the dancers. I wanted also to let a lot of space for the dancers. And we talk a lot with Willie. I did a first version with a lot of African instruments, but he didn't want to go to that direction. And so it was kind of a lot of back and forth with him, and a very, very interesting collaboration. And I hope to continue this process. I'm sure we can enhance some aspects and continue to collaborate on other things.
Thanks so much, Theo. I think I find the part of you pushing against the use of so many African instruments very interesting. Was that based on, the fact that you thought people would expect you to do something like that, so you wanted to push against it?
Yeah, that was very interesting, and I kind of like, I wanted to use some very specific Burkina Faso instruments, and I discovered some very beautiful traditional music. But I also understand the wish of Willie to not focus that much on that part and to let more the expression of the dancers coming up. So it was very interesting. If I can jump on that, I just would like to say it was very interesting for me as a white guy coming from Europe, coming in the US. I composed the song you heard at the end during the riots, during the summer 2019. And then I show it to my friend Willie to like, hey, what do you think? I'm a white guy writing this music about tea struggle, and I would have never imagined that 20 dancers from Burkina Faso will end up dancing on that piece. And the path, the journey of this music is really beautiful, I think. And yeah, the purpose of art, dance or music can bring people together.
Theo, to be honest with you, I found out that your navigation of your own positionality as a white man is very, very important and interesting. It adds to the piece, the fact that you just said that, and the fact that you thought about that, and the recognition of having all these dancers dancing to that piece while the composer, you're as a composer, recognizing your own positionality is very, very interesting. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Lebret, I think there is a specific question to you. And the question is, can you tell us more about the poem? The person who said that they enjoyed it so much.
Hi, thank you. So the poem primarily comes from trying to find a balance between almost like trauma porn of Black people dying or Black people being harmed, and it being recorded and played over and over without being able to, say, move forward in relation to like a social justice manner with society. So I was trying to find the balance between, well, if I'm confined in a chokehold, I can't breathe, you know, that's Eric Gardner. But then at the same time, you have these softer elements like the wind, you know. So I tried to I just try to humanize myself and other Black people. It's just, I like to find that balance. I don't want to speak too much to the trauma. There's always trauma, but being a Black person or a Black woman, there's so much beauty in being who I am and being who Willie is and being all those dancers back in Burkina is just amazing. So I learned to take my own text and deliver it in the way that Willie encouraged and directed me. That actually was one of the challenges to address the earlier question, is not only that I do not speak More, I don't speak French. I speak French like a baby, but Willie translated a lot. And at one point, Willie's like, you and Rama, one of the woman who's one of the 5 principal dancers, he's like, you two will just figure it out. So there was that element. And also trying to move with the dancers. I refused to dance, even though Willie extended the invitation. So he kept drilling it over and over. He's like, I want you to move. I was like, okay, I will go on the stage and just stand there and talk. That wasn't working. And so by the end, with Willie's direction, I was able to feel how the text flowed with the dancers, and it became one and the same. Yeah. So.
That was a brilliant, and to be honest, Lebret, I thank you for mentioning that. I think I'm very interested and intrigued in this idea of balancing, not because it would be easier if it's correct to say perhaps, or in the common understanding of like trauma, the first thing that would be the obvious choice is to speak to that, is to represent that. But for you to take that and push against it, just like Theo was saying, like to push against the expectation of the audience to associate certain bodies or certain regions with certain music and try to play with that and push against that and revert that, I think it's very interesting, but I bet it's challenging. So how do you balance, making sure that people know that there is still trauma, there is still grievance, there is still all of that still happening, yet there's also other choices to show the beauty, to choose happiness, or to demonstrate that there is perhaps either hope or resistance or resilience. So how do you balance all of that, the recognition of both sides of the spectrum?
I feel thank you for the question. I feel like I naturally have to, even when, say, a Black trans woman is murdered. And then you have people from the trans community, from the cis community, uplifting the name of this Black trans woman. But the person is murdered, but there's this upliftment of, say her name, we're going to protest, we're going to march. There's an automatic beauty. But for people, whether they're born on the continent or born in America or anywhere else, whether part of the diaspora and anywhere else on the globe, Black people are seen as a monolith, and we're not. And we're also always equated with death. But as a Black person, I can feed into it so much. And I also am going to find the joy that I received from being with Willie and the dancers, or what my mother gave me or my father gave me. It's a choice, but also the pain is very real. It's very visceral. I feel that, but there's ways to navigate it, and I choose to navigate it as best as I can. And the way that I navigate it doesn't mean that's going to work for another Black person. Right. Everybody's experience is different. So I just do what I can. That's part of my path, is to be a writer and to contribute to the universal dialogue, because our dialogues are different, but at the same time, we are really speaking the same story. It's like, you know, spirituality, you have Christian, Muslim, voodoo, you know, but at the same time, we want this higher level. We want to feel connected. We want to tap into our purpose. And so that's what I do with the writing. And that's how I'm able to balance it out. And this is the first time, again, I'm so grateful to you, Willie, for inviting me. I've never been back to the continent. And so to go home, but to go home as an artist and not as a tourist, it's just, I'm still like, it's a watershed moment for me. So thank you for the question.
That was so deep. I'm very grateful to have you with us to speak to all of that, Libret. And I think bringing in intersectionality while navigating all of that is just so important, because the ultimate goal is to navigate that systematic oppression, systematic racism within the intersectionality of race, gender, the social status, all of that plays into a bigger, you know, system of oppression that is put, you know, and on specifically on continuing on that note, there's a question that speaks to the poem, but your own choice, Willie. Why did you choose to have the poet moving around instead of being stationary while reading the poem? What was behind that reasoning?
Yeah, thanks for that question. First of all, maybe Labret didn't really say it, but she's a dancer. That's how I met her. Labret is a dancer. She's moving, and as a mover myself, as someone who bases his work on the body, the moving body, I didn't. It's about intersectionality. I didn't want to have just the text and the dancing, the text saying something and the dancing saying that. It was kind of like a conversation between the two disciplines. And to me, as a dancer, Labret felt better, was better moving on stage, even though we tried, because we didn't have enough time, we kind of cut a couple sections where I wanted her to dance. And she was like, no, I don't want to do it. And we went back and forth. But since we didn't have enough time for our residency, we had only 3 weeks. 3 weeks with Labret in Burkina, working on that. So we kind of put that section for the next chapter, because I'm already thinking, not thinking, I'm already working on the next chapter of this piece. And that's why I'm in Burkina right now.
Oh, wow. So those who are attending with us, they're going to be the first to learn about it today, right now. Exactly. Breaking news. He's already working on it. The next chapter. That's amazing. Yes. That is amazing. That's all we want to hear. We want to hear about more of this, because it's so much needed. But on Libret's dancing, she's just so hesitant to say it, but I think she was dancing with words already.
Exactly.
She's dancing with words. That her dance was manifested through that poetry right there. I really want to ask, and any of you could jump on this. I think, Willie, specifically for you, being in the U.S., but being Burkinabe, like from our continent right there, I believe, and I think this needs to be addressed, and I don't know if you agree, but there is the tendency to think that Black bodies' experiences are the same. But again, there's intersectionality, but you as somebody from Burkina Faso coming here to the US, and obviously your own experiences as a Black African person would be different from those who identify African Americans or Black Americans in the American context. So how do you think through that, and how did you want that to come, and did you want the piece to speak to that? Because in the description, for example, it speaks to both. So do you find yourself as an artist, choreographer, dancer speaking to both sides of the spectrum?
Yes, like you said, black bodies are facing a lot of oppression, and it's something that needs to be spoken about. But the main thing for me in that piece was that we shouldn't just try to create that intersectionality between all the systems of operation. We need to find the right framework to make them get together. And that's why what I tried to do with this piece, because it was the most important thing. Because we have like a lot of social groups fighting against oppression, but most of the time, these groups are not, they don't have the same framework to talk about oppression. And my work in this piece was to kind of bring like a communal framework where all the things I was talking about will be getting together. And thanks God, I was able to make that happen. And
actually, to go off of that, there's a really, in particular, there's a great question that could speak to that. Angela is asking, what do you want people to take away from this piece, in particular, those who are not Black or African? I thought that's a really good question. Yeah.
that's a very good question. Yeah. No, it's just that to recognize, try to find all these different ways that operation is working currently on Black bodies, because nowadays people will think that okay, let me reframe that. Nowadays, operation has a different face. Because like if I talk a little bit, if I take the example of like our current life in movies, you have like some hidden types of operation. For example, let's talk about movies in which white people are exposing like dead animals. That can be like a hidden type of operation towards Black bodies, because when you talk about oppression towards Black bodies, you are kind of putting Black body lower, really down. You are kind of considering the Black body as an animal. And to me, kind of exposing like a dead animal in, how do you call it, a trophy. It's about taking the soul of the animal and just repurposing it. You're just putting your own thing into the body of the animal. And that's what operation is doing to Black bodies. It's kind of taking our soul and doing. So I want to, with this work, I'm trying to have everybody be aware of different types of operations that Black bodies are living, and to just step in it and try to do something about it. If that makes sense.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, Theo, and I'll go to Libret after that. Please go for it.
I don't know how I'm gonna say that. Also, my English is not perfect, and I'm sorry about that. But I can relate to this question a lot because I'm not Black and I'm not American. So, to be very honest with you, I still feel kind of illegitimate to have done this music about that, and I still question myself of my role. And I think Willie gave me a role in that, and I'm very happy about that. But still, who I am to express my, and it's not really my opinion, but I'm looking at that issue in this world, in this country, and trying to turn in it art. And I think it's my humbly as an artist to try to turn this violence into art, into beauty, and this whole process, and making collaboration around that. And just at the end of the song, I found this beautiful chanting of a riot, like let's organize, let's come together, and that's the main goal of dance and music, I think. And I'm not looking for anything else when I'm doing music or anything else in art. Just brought people together and let's sing about that, let's dance about that, and let's talk about that, what we are doing right now.
Theo, I have to tell you, as a researcher doing my own research in my own home country, Tunisia, I'm North African, questioning your positionality is already, it's a proof that you're on the right track. I'm somebody who's doing her research on her own country with her own people and still questioning what it means to be doing that type of work. Because the community I'm working with identifies Black Tunisian, so I'm also in the Tunisian context, I'm not Black. I come to the US, but I'm not also white. I am a person of color. So there's a lot that goes into that and what we're trying to accomplish while recognizing, and I think that's what Willie was talking to, recognizing the privilege that some might possess and might not understand the same oppression that it's being practiced on Black bodies or other vulnerable communities. So thank you for speaking to that. Absolutely. Libret?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Well, the question was to all of you, but what do you want people to take away from this piece, in particular, those who are not Black or African?
Oh, so for folks who do not identify as a Black person who's part of the African diaspora, just go with what you're feeling. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What is it connected to in my life? And what can I do with these feelings? Particularly if it's anger or if it's feeling guilty, perhaps dig into that guilt or that anger, whatever that is. I'm just using those two emotions because that comes up a lot. Dig into that feeling. And then based on what you're feeling, see what you can do to educate yourself about those feelings. Because often people who are not part of the African diaspora will ask people who are Black and part of the African diaspora to do the labor. So if those feelings of guilt and anger come up, do your own labor. Don't ask a Black organization to help you understand. Do not ask them what you can do to support helping us be more as a community and be humanity and tap into who we are. Do your own work. If you feel anger, that is a legitimate feeling. But what else can you feel besides anger? Anger is a cover up for sadness, grief, depression. Tap into that. Whatever you take away from this piece is what you feel. As a writer, I would small, and I can't think of the right word, but I don't want to small or make tiny what you feel, because whatever you feel is part of your experience and it's genuine to who you are. So just tap into that and then see what the next step is that you can take to move forward and connect to whoever you want to connect to, especially if they're people who are part of the African diaspora, you know? That's it.
Preach. Libret, I'm just so grateful to have you. So grateful that you speak to that. I think that we only have a few minutes left. I think what a way to wrap this up. I think this piece speaks volume to the amount of labor and work that non-Africans, non-Black, and the African diaspora need to work. And it usually falls into the oppressed or those faced with oppression to do the work, to educate. It's a lot of emotional labor. It's a lot of physical labor. Please meet us halfway through to do that work. And it's you're absolutely right. Usually it's wrapped in white guilt. So instead of that work that needs to be done, we take it and move forward. A lot of Black people, marginalized, oppressed nations find themselves doing the psychologist to those who feel the white guilt. That takes a lot of energy. Please meet us halfway and do your own work to move forward. So I couldn't have said it better, Libret. Thank you so much. One last question and we should be wrapping up. Would this piece be brought to the US? That's one of the final questions that one person asked, actually. And I found it really important to ask this question.
Actually, that's my goal. Like I said, I'm back in Burkina Faso already working on the next chapter. We've been rehearsing every single day. And my goal is to kind of premiere it by next year on stage with everybody there. And last time I saw Labret, because we were here in Burkina together, and then we went back to LA that I didn't see her. But what I knew was that as soon as she went back to Burkina, she started to Los Angeles. So she started working again on the text, because part of the thing was that she comes to Burkina, experience the life as a Black American in Africa, and then write the text. So she did it. Now she's on to the next process as well, which is about recentering and rewriting everything based on her experience back in Burkina. So yes, the goal is to bring it in the US and potentially touring around the world. Who knows? And
Yes.
possibly with Theo and live musicians. Who knows?
Yes.
If we have the funding for that.
Yeah, those of you who are listening, we need funds. Fund your fellow artists. That was one of the most challenging, I think, things that you shared with me. The funds part. I think artists.
Yes, yeah.
It was proven that this whole year, artists were needed the most to elevate our spirits and make us hang in there tight and move forward. With that being said, I am very grateful. Thank you all so much for being here. Those who attended, those who asked questions. I tried to do the best I could to manage. There are some questions in the Q&A and some questions in the chat. It's just so overwhelming, but I think that's a good thing. That means you all did such an amazing job for this piece. Theo, the music was just phenomenal. Congratulations. And thank you for using your platform and art to question your positionality. I think that's just a great thing to start with. Lebret, I'm so grateful, even if it was last minute, I'm just so grateful to have you. Willie, the whole team, those who were not able to make it because they're in France, congratulations again. The whole video and the performance will be put, I think, by the Department of Youth, the World Arts and Culture at UCLA. For those who missed it, thank you again for all of your comments, for our wonderful team to make sure that everything goes smoothly. We will be looking more to receive much more art from our continent in Africa in collaboration with people here in the US and across. Thank you all so much. And it was a pleasure talking to you and meeting you, and looking forward to seeing you all again. You have a wonderful evening and good rest of the morning. Bye.